Hey guys, welcome. I'm Mark, Crypto Boy in Oz, and it is the 6th of October, it's Wednesday, sun is shining. I'm just taking a 10-15 minute break, and I just thought I'd have a quick chat about prices of Bitcoin and Bitcoin in general. And I've been kind of thinking, right, a lot of people think, oh, is Bitcoin expensive? And it's 51,000, and they were saying it on the 20th of July when it crashed down to 29,000-30,000. People still weren't buying because they're thinking, oh, I'm waiting for it to come down a bit more, it's expensive. And forgive me, but a lot of them people are dumbasses, because if you actually understand Bitcoin and you've read the white paper, or you understand the basics about the halvings, the difficulty in mining, the scarcity, then supply and demand tells you that the price of Bitcoin can only go up. It can't go any other direction. And Bitcoin will never go away, because that's like saying, oh, it might just die. Well, that's if you think of it as the same as the internet. If you said, the internet might just die, or might just go away, you realise how dumb that sounds, don't you? And I think anybody that's got a little bit of intellect in them that would know that the internet can't go anywhere. It's impossible. Well, Bitcoin is exactly the same thing. It can't go anywhere. It's been created. It's out there. It's open source. The code's there for everybody to see. It ain't going anywhere. It's impossible. So when you've got over the fact that Bitcoin's going to be around forever, and then you look at the current price at $51,000, and then you look at the supply shock. So you look at, there's 21 million total ever in existence, and those aren't going to be mined until the year 2146, because it's all baked into the code. The difficulty in mining increases, the reward per block decreases every 4 years by the halving event. So if you think, like last year Bitcoin halved, so now six and a quarter Bitcoin are mined per block, and then in 2024, so in 3 years time, that halves again. So Bitcoin will be three and an eighth. But in the meantime, Bitcoin is getting more and more difficult to mine. So the equipment needed to mine gets more expensive. The power needed to generate electricity becomes more, and that gets more expensive. So to actually create a Bitcoin is costing more and more and more, and the reward what Bitcoin gives you decreases every single halving, every 4 years. So in 2024 you're getting 3 and an eighth. 2028 you're getting just over 1.5. In 2032, which isn't a long way off if you're young, 2032, so in 11 years you're getting less than 1 Bitcoin. And combined with the difficulty in mining, and then the reward is getting less and less and less, on top of that you've got mass adoption. And when I say mass adoption, like, you've got to put it in perspective. There's what, 8 to 9 billion people on the planet. All Western countries are getting more and more into crypto. All countries that have no banks, that are pretty much unbanked, that have been neglected by the system, they're getting even more into crypto than anywhere else, because they're creating this new money, whether it be Bitcoin, whether it be Cardano, whatever coin it may be. Crypto is being adopted more in third world countries than probably in what mainstream, like your Western countries, it's being adopted. Plus, on top of that, you're getting your countries involved. There's probably going to be another 2 or 3 countries in the next 6 months what are going to embrace Bitcoin. You're getting governments what are buying crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum. You're getting institutions. You're getting pension funds, hedge funds, and when these guys come in, they're not buying millions. These pension fund investors have got multi-billion-dollar portfolios where they can get in on crypto. And then think of Michael Saylor and his company MicroStrategy. I think MicroStrategy have bought 110,000 Bitcoin so far. Michael Saylor's probably got 20,000 Bitcoin, maybe more. But if you think of that is one entity, and that one entity has got, like, say, 130,000 Bitcoin. Well, if you think about what's in circulation right now, so there's about 18 million Bitcoins in circulation. The last one isn't going to be mined until the year 2146. So get your head around that if you didn't know that. Get your head around that. 140 years. 120 years away. The last Bitcoin isn't going to be mined. And think how many... Right. This is where you've just got to use your brain a little bit, right? So 2024, 3 1/8. 2028, 1.5. 2032, 3/4. So in the year 2032, 3/4 of a Bitcoin. 2036. See where I'm going? So as time goes on, the amount of Bitcoin mined is going to be measured in satoshis. It's going to be fractalized so much that it won't be talked about as Bitcoin itself. It'll be talked about. You'll get so many satoshis when you mine a block, and that's when you've got to kind of comprehend the value of Bitcoin. When Bitcoin will be priced in satoshis rather than whole Bitcoins. So to say Bitcoin is overvalued at $50,000, forgive me, but you'd have to be a complete idiot to think that. Because if you're thinking long term, Bitcoin in the next 10 years is probably going to weigh $1 million. And when you understand the fundamentals, and you're not just reading some narrative that telling you Bitcoin's overpriced or it's still a scam or whatever, when you actually do your own research and you look at how Bitcoin is mined, the scarcity, the demand, the halving event, 121.46 when the last Bitcoin's mined, you kind of realise it's a bit like a Eureka moment, and you think, holy shit, Bitcoin is like generational wealth. Like if you could accumulate one Bitcoin now and hold it, that one Bitcoin can give you generation and generational wealth. Because you've got to remember, with Bitcoin you can actually stake it and you can get 5% return on Bitcoin. Well, 5% return on $50,000 might not seem that much money, but 5% return on $1 million Bitcoin, well, then it starts to get a little bit interesting. And as time goes on, the price of Bitcoin is going to go up and up and up. So just the passive income you can receive off just one asset, being one Bitcoin, is going to be absolutely game changing. So to me, it's about accumulating as much crypto now as you possibly can, and I'm doing it in altcoins because what I'm invested in, I really think it's going to outperform Bitcoin. So I'm investing as much as I can in altcoins to then take over to Bitcoin for life-changing generational wealth for me, my family, for my daughter. And I seriously think that 20 years from now, a Bitcoin is probably going to be in the ranges of like 20 to 50 million dollars, because nobody is going to be selling it. Bitcoin is going to be the true store of value, the true store of value. You've got all these other cryptos, but Bitcoin, its primary use case is store of value, and the price of it is just going to go up and up and up, and it's going to leave gold in its tracks, because as time passes, digital becomes more and more normal, and you can see that just through history. You went from VHS to DVD to streaming. You went through cassette to CD to streaming. People don't need a physical product anymore, and to be honest, most people that invest in like commodities, invest in gold, silver, they're investing on something that's backed by gold and silver, but they don't physically have it in their possession. So crypto, Bitcoin, digital gold, store of value, and it's going to make a lot of people very, very wealthy. And if you got to think about all the people like Michael Saylor out there. So he's got an awful lot of Bitcoin, 110, probably 130,000 Bitcoin between himself and MicroStrategy. There's currently 18 million Bitcoin in circulation. If you be conservative, you could probably say 3 million have gone forever. By that I mean someone's died, they've lost the private keys. Satoshi himself, I think he's rumoured to have 1 million in a wallet somewhere, but a lot of these wallets have like been untouched and probably never will be touched. But if you say 3 million, so that means there's a circulating supply. Well, not circulating, there's a supply of 15 million Bitcoin. Now, people like MicroStrategy, these massive investment firms, Grayscale, they ain't selling Bitcoin. They're buying it and they're accumulating it and they're keeping it, because they know that it's the greatest single asset that has ever been created in human history. It's the best performing asset, bar none, for the last 10 years. It's beaten every other asset. It's had the highest return since inception, pretty much. So when you think of like Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy, these billionaires, and there's going to be a point where they have a Eureka moment and they kind of think, where can I invest my money? Like, where can I get the biggest returns? Well, the stock market has been going up uncontrollably because of all this money printing for the last 12, 18 months. How much further can it go? I think there's going to be a catastrophic correction across all assets. Stock market will be the driving factor. If you listen to Robert Kiyosaki, he strongly believes that the stock market is going to have the biggest correction of all time. If that happens, every asset across the planet will plummet. and Bitcoin is probably your safest bet. So you've got all these people, these billionaires, that are thinking, right, I'm not going to put it in the stock market, can't hold it as cash because it's devaluing probably. What if you believe what the governments tell you, 3% inflation. If you look at reality, it's more like 7-8% inflation. So you're losing 7-8%, keeping it as cash. You start looking at bonds, they're negative. I mean, they'll actually cost you money, not besides inflation. Then you might think, oh, what about gold? Well, if you'd have bought gold 10 years ago, you'd have exactly the same amount of money that you've got now. So if you don't go as far as 7%, say you go to 5% inflation. So if you'd have bought gold at $1 million, you still have $1 million today. But in reality, that $1 million is devalued 50% because of inflation. So you're not going to keep it in gold. So when all these billionaires around the planet think, right, what's the obvious choice? The obvious choice is Bitcoin. So if you think Michael Saylor has got roughly 1.2% of Bitcoin supply, because if you think he's got 130,000 Bitcoin, yeah. So 10% is 1.3 million Bitcoin. 100%, 13 million Bitcoin. Well, if you think if there's 3 million missing, there's only 18 million. That means there's 15 million. So if he's got 1% of 13 million, so what's he got? He's got 1.2% of the entire supply of Bitcoin. It only takes another 100 billionaires to think exactly the same. 100. So let alone you're thinking, there's 15 million Bitcoin that are available. Well, there's not anyhow. Grayscale, a lot of these private wallets, MicroStrategy, they're buying the holding because they know what the future value is going to be. They ain't selling it. There's probably a couple of million Bitcoin floating about here and there. I think across all exchanges there's about 1 million, which is the smallest supply of Bitcoin on exchanges on record. But there's probably 2 million available to purchase. But if you think that they're going to be there when all these billionaires have this Eureka moment, when it has become mainstream and everybody invests in Bitcoin, and if you're not investing in Bitcoin, you're missing out, that moment is going to come. And when the demand for Bitcoin is so high and the product itself is so scarce, the price of Bitcoin, you can't even put a value on it. It is unfathomable of how much one Bitcoin can be worth. So I hope this has been a bit of a refresher for you and maybe open your eyes to the potential of it. But right now, anybody, if they've got the money, can go out and buy a Bitcoin. And trust me, if you bought one Bitcoin, it'd be the greatest investment you or your ancestors could have ever made. So I'll finish. Invest well, my friends. And if you've got enough for a Bitcoin, maybe buy one, or speculate on alts to accumulate some more quick wealth and then diversify back into Bitcoin when you're happy to do so. But invest well, and remember, there's a crypto boy in every single one of you, even you women out there.